Hello, New Zealand. Welcome to Political Playback. And, I'm on the road. So, Simon, if you can hear this bouncing of rain on the roof, it's just the nature of the building I'm in. Is it wet where you are?
I'm still in Auckland and it is completely and utterly bucketing down. In fact, I've
Mm.
just raced in and suited up after emptying the pools, or rather lowering the pool levels. First world problem, of course.
I saw somebody, Lynette said, good evening from a very wet Hamilton. Well, I think most of the country seems to be getting a lot of rain, and a bit of concern about the Tasman district, actually, because they've already been battered. So we watched that one. Anyway, welcome to Political Playback. We'd love to hear your views. You can direct message us on our Family First Facebook page and on our YouTube account. You may be watching on X, which many do. You may be watching on LinkedIn and also other Facebook pages. We're everywhere, anywhere we can be. But if you are on Family First Facebook page or YouTube, then we'll see your message come through and we might even engage with it. We have got so much to get through tonight, Simon. There's just so many topics going around. But I do want to start with actually a bit of a sob case, and that is the fact that you got cancelled, which, hilarious. Tell us about it.
Oh, look, really briefly, a university here in New Zealand, I'm not naming them at this point, long and short, some actually lovely people invited me to come and speak into sort of the political, philosophical policy space. I actually put forward a number of suggestions of topics, but they actually said, hey, we really want you to talk about Israel and Gaza.
Right.
And so for weeks since then, we've been putting it together, which has been great. But I always had in the back of my mind, Bob, there's certain topics which are deemed controversial by the progressive or far left. And so sure enough, 48 hours ago, an email to say the topic is far too sensitive and the timing's too sensitive. And so the talk's been cancelled. So I've been deplatformed. I'm joining quite an illustrious group of New Zealanders who are no longer allowed to share opinions in universities.
But look, how much of that is coming down to security concerns, and they just can't guarantee the safety that there's this kind of aggression that has been building up, and unfortunately it's coming from both sides. And so we're losing the ability to even just feel we can gather and disagree with each other in safety.
Yeah, I mean, twofold on that. I'm never put off by these thugs. Secondly, I was actually going to do it via Zoom. So literally, someone could throw a tomato at their laptop if they wanted. But we are losing that ability to speak. And, I use that word thug quite deliberately because we talk about the thug's veto. Threats of violence are met usually with silence by authorities and our police. And it's actually the people trying to do good, or in this case, trying to express an opinion, who get stopped. And, the other example is a friend of mine, Lucy, who was arrested on Queen Street in Auckland because she stood quietly with a sign as thousands of pro-Hamas supporters walked down the street, and she was arrested because the police were worried that she would be attacked by the pro-Palestinian crowd. I mean, things are really strange out there at the moment.
Okay, I was just having a quick look at just our viewership, and we got a lot across all the platforms. One of the things we've noticed is that there's a whole lot of people that watch on Twitter now, or X. So welcome to all our X viewers, not X as in has been, or a previous loved us, X as in Twitter. So it's nice to be across all these platforms. All right. Topic number 2 is nice cup there, Simon.
Thank you very
I'm
much.
on the road, so unfortunately I haven't got the right cup. Anyway, Hipkins hysterics. Look, this just comes from the fact that ram raids have seen a massive decrease. Let me just enlarge that, and you'll see there that it peaked around the end of 2023. Just before you left politics, Simon. So I think you may have been causing that rise. And then after you left and after Labour got booted out, it has dramatically dropped. And Chris Hipkins was asked about this on News Talk ZB, which is part of NZME, which also owns the New Zealand Herald. Have a listen to his reasoning for this drop in ram raids.
Quickly ask you there, we don't ever hear of ram raids anymore. Is that because of the system that you put in place, or is it since the coalition's come in?
No, it's because your Tory owners at NZME have just decided not to put it on the front page anymore. It's still happening. It's just NZME have decided that it's not in the government's best interests, and they do the National Party's singing for them, so they're not covering it as much anymore.
Oh, gosh, that's a bit tough to...
Okay, to me, Simon, that is just weird. The funny thing was that I actually just had a look back and I found that actually a non-NZME company, in fact, the lefty Radio New Zealand had been reporting it as well a year ago, showing, hang on, no, that was in February. So that was a couple of months ago, reporting this massive decrease. Is Hipkins, did he get caught out? Did he just not get his facts right? To call NZME Tory shows that he's getting a little bit extremist here, isn't he?
Oh, he is, and he's well out of line. I think it's just he got caught out. He doesn't have an answer. He's got no political answer. Can't actually admit that Mark Mitchell and the crew have done a good job in trying to pull things back. Because let's be clear, when the new government took over, they made a focus on ensuring that police got back to doing what police needed to do. And I can tell you, I think when I was the MP in the area that I am in, it was something like 52 or 56 ram raids in a year. It was terrible. And the police often knew who it was, but they didn't feel they had the support of the then Labour government to do what was needed. So long and short, Hipkins has got no answers. He would have been better, Bob, being somewhat gracious, or if he had to be completely political, to say, well, this is actually the work that we started and now here's the fruit. But to attack the Herald, honestly.
Okay, got completely caught out. All right. Funny thing is that everybody's putting comments through, but they're all giving us weather reports. So there we go.
All right.
We got a whole lot of meteorologists watching tonight. Look, let's move on because, like I say, we've got a stack of topics to get through. So let's keep going. Now, interesting just to note that the Radio New Zealand basically were covering the whole school lunches debacle, and they were printing, I think we figured out, about 2 articles per day over a 2-week period. They just couldn't talk about it enough. They thought this was a weak point of David Seymour's and they were going to take the government down with this. And then suddenly it got sorted and it went very quiet. And there was an article that just came out yesterday sort of saying, well, it seems to be sorted. And then this is the New Zealand Herald, jumped on the bandwagon again. Now, actually, Simon, can I just do a quick test on you? Because I did actually put a post on X just asking about this because I thought there was some slyness going on in this title. If you look at this title, what does that say to you? What's the satisfaction rate with the school lunches at the moment, looking at that title?
Oh, the 73% positive feedback. Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Well,
what does that apply to?
I imagine it's the students. I'd guess.
Yeah, that's exactly what I read it as well. Now, the fact of the matter is that the achievement rate of the actual lunches is up around 98%. Apparently, they're getting there on time. The 73% is actually referring. They are proposing some new types of dishes for term 3, and they tested them against some students, and 3/4 of them liked the new meals, right? But that's not actually the judgment against the satisfaction of the whole school's program. I just thought it was some people thought I was reading into it a bit too much. Maybe I was, but I just thought they had an article saying that there was 98% delivery. The scheme was going well now. And they put this heading 73% positive feedback. Now, they were referring to whether people liked the proposed meals, not how the system was working. Am I reading too much into that?
No, look, I hadn't got to your X, so I wasn't aware of that. So, no, I don't think you are. I think this is just another good example of how mainstream media selects titles, or in this case, a headline. And look, they've clearly chosen a lower figure. So at one level, Bob, they are a little bit of a bouquet to the program, but to me, they've deliberately chosen the lower figure rather than, as you say, 98% delivery on time or 94% of children happy. My own sense, a little bit, having a foster child and going to school, even though we do most of the feeding, the complaints have stopped because it was always political, Bob. Yeah, there were problems. Let's not, ignore that. But
It's
this
a
was
national
just
system.
an attack on Seymour. It was, yeah.
And I've never known the government to run something without there being complaints.
Oh, that's right. Oh, look, I think you nailed it at the start. They saw this as a weak point for Seymour, and they just attacked, and they turned it into a campaign, which is why, as you mentioned, some outlets twice a day, and now it's gone quiet.
Yeah.
But yeah, they
Very
cherry pick the stats to push the agenda that suits them.
And look, can I just give you another example that I saw, and that was this one about the boot camps. So the media suddenly wanted to talk about boot camps again because apparently one of the teens appeared in court and was removed from the scheme. Now, the whole implication of this coverage is basically to say these boot camps aren't working. Look, one of the teens ended up in court and had to be removed, so obviously they're a failure. We shouldn't be funding them. We should shut them down. But my response would be, okay, well, are you saying that we're not expelling and suspending kids from school? And if we are, then we need to shut down the education system as well. I just think there's some skullduggery going on in this one as well.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's in some ways, Bob, it's a fake headline. It grabs attention. And if you are not really thinking about the topic, you could, justifiably be angry. Oh, yeah, God, that's ridiculous. But as you are doing is you take even a half a step back and ponder it to go, well, one person doesn't sink an entire system. No. You don't sack the teacher at school because one of the students fail. You don't close the parliament down because there's a scandal with MPs. It's just, it's ludicrous. But again, it's a cheap emotive headline.
Actually, that's a very good idea, shutting down Parliament with just one scandal. I thought that's a brilliant idea, Simon. Why didn't I think of that? All right. We are going very well. Topic number 4, and Winston has come up with a winner again, and they've introduced a bill to ban woke flags from government buildings. Now, there's a couple of points here before I get your view on this, Simon. The first is that Chris Lynch Media, who I'm a big fan of because he's just a privateer doing a great job and doing media reporting where the mainstream aren't. I just had a quick Google before we came on live, and none of the media have reported this bill. They've steered clear of it. And it's only been Chris Lynch that reported it, and I think Winston may have been on the platform this morning with Sean Plunkett. They basically say that government buildings for all New Zealanders shouldn't be hijacked by cultural, woke or divisive political ideology. So we're talking about LGBT flags, transgender, BLM, Palestinian flags, etc. I was keen to get an interview with Winston because I wanted to ask, would it apply to this room in Parliament, which is the Rainbow Room, which that's not your old desk there, is it, Simon? That one there. Does it apply to local councils wasting ratepayers' monies on virtue signalling crossings? Does it apply to Kiwi Bank with their woke debit card? And does it apply to councils who paint bus shelters, etc., with virtue signalling stuff as well? So, Simon, is this bill a winner?
Oh, it is for New Zealand first. I mean, it's not going to go anywhere. I would say it has zero chance of succeeding. But it's a dog whistle, for want of a better term, into New Zealand first supporters and those who are concerned around wokery. So this is designed, Bob, and you know it too, and the viewers will understand it. This is not designed to be successful. This is just once again signalling Winston and New Zealand first intention. And look, I can see some merit in it. It's not even about the particular types of flags. It really then, for me, it comes down to, well, who gets to decide what is and isn't being flown? Should we be flying flags at Easter time and at Christmas? Should we be having the hammer and sickle flag on May 1st to celebrate Labor Day? A new pope is elected. We should fly the Vatican flag. It's all these inconsistencies because, they'll put up the Palestinian flag and the trans rights flags, but they won't do a lot of the others. And I will say, and I haven't read the law, the proposed law, but I doubt strongly it's got anything to do other than flag poles on government buildings.
Yeah, it could be local council as well, and would be schools as well. And of course, there's a few virtue signalling schools. Neil says at Waiheke Local Board, apparently they got the Palestinian flag on on their building. So, yeah, I'll be interested to see. I mean, the question I'd like to ask Winston is, did he run it past Acton National? Did they say, they wouldn't support it, or did they say, well, chuck it in the private members bill and we'll consider it if and when it gets drawn? Actually, I figured out that New Zealand First have got a few interesting bills that if they got drawn, because they've got the one around woke banks, they've got the one around DEI, they've got the flag one now, they've got the woman one as well, haven't they? The definition of woman. So
yeah, yeah, but it's all political. I mean, duh. I mean, babies eat cake. Sorry, there's the stupid statement of the day. I mean, I suspect they haven't consulted their coalition colleagues. I mean, everything you've just mentioned there is a clear signal into the electorate that New Zealand First want to position itself as the anti-woke, traditional conservative, no-nonsense party. And so each of these is like a poster or a loud siren to sort of tell people, hey, we're the party. I mean, one complication, if you do get to talk to Winston, you might want to ask him around the Ukrainian flags. After the Russian invasion, it became quite popular. And, even I have to say for myself, I didn't mind it flying as a gesture. How does he cope with that? I'm not saying it flies all the time, every time, but...
I might have the answer to that one. It said... the legislation would ban symbols and flags of politically motivated ideology and division from being displayed, but there's something about limited exceptions for foreign flags displayed during official diplomatic or state visits. So no, that wouldn't apply to the example you just gave, would it?
No, the flying of foreign flags is not unusual. In fact, when you were at Parliament, you knew when the Governor-General was in, not that she's foreign, but there was a specific flagpole for her flag, your good friend Cindy Kiro.
She's got some foreign views.
But yeah, you knew which countries were visiting because those flags would fly beside the New Zealand flag. So there'd be the American flag or the Union Jack or the Chinese flag. You knew which ambassadors and officials were visiting. It was sort of, I don't know, cute, is that the right word? I found that quite good. But look, there is merit for anyone who goes, oh, it's just flags. You go, look, anything that's politically motivated and, as Winston's saying, is divisive, who is deciding? And again, just do the simple thought experiment. They love having the BLM flags and trans right flags, but they wouldn't want you and I flying flags of our preference. Not that we're asking, but it's that inconsistency which we see all the time.
Yeah, I think Robert sums it up. Fly any flag on your own flagpole, but New Zealand flag on official poles. And yeah, that's probably a fair approach. All right, let's talk about Youth Parliament, because you would have had a Youth MP when you were a member of Parliament. Well, you would have had, 12 of them. So, and there's this big furor because apparently some of them get to speak and some of them, well, they say censorship. Now, I have actually seen the kind of campaign going on censorship, and this is actually on the Renews website of One News, and Renews is a radical bunch that should be shut down, actually, in my view. We shouldn't be funding them because they're very extremist and they're obsessed with sexuality and gender identity politics. But anyway, they were featuring this. Now, I don't know if you saw it, Simon, but there was actually a press conference held on the steps of Parliament by another group of MPs who said, actually, no, there wasn't censorship. And they said that when they tried to speak, they were shut down by this radical group of kind of lefty MPs. And so even within the youth MPs, there's all this claim of censorship and shutting down. So what's your read on all this? Because you'd understand more of the process, and actually, was there censorship or was it simply guidance on what to say?
From what I can tell, it's more guidance. And I think it's not unreasonable for in this case, the Ministry for Youth to give some guidance. I mean, at the end of the day, Youth MPs is a nice title. I actually had 4 of them because it runs every 3 years. And my ones, I have to say, were just wonderful young people from the area. And yep, you get the title Youth MP, but you're not an MP. It really is just an experience, and it should be fun. But you reap what you sow. And society and the Parliament, particularly the activists, the radicals, the anarchists, the likes of the Māori Party and the Greens, their behaviours over the years, and we've talked about it here on Political Playback, their behaviours, yelling, ranting, screaming, you name it, the young ones are picking up on that. And so the ones that they are bringing in are just reiterating or replicating rather those tactics. And so what the Ministry of Youth didn't want is for this, what meant to be a fairly positive experience of Parliament to turn into a debacle. But that's what these lefty young ones wanted. They wanted to storm out of speeches they didn't like. They wanted to yell and heckle people they've only just met. They wanted to thrust their views on down to everyone. Honestly, what has a 17-year-old got to tell the government around pay equity? I have to be blunt with that, but they are arrogant. They think they know it all. And so the ministry was just saying, hey, look, maybe step back from getting into that. And if you will, not so much causing disorder, but just not being respectful to the others who are coming for an experience.
There is a protocol, though, isn't there? Because I remember Anne Tolley got in trouble, one of your ex-colleagues who was the acting Speaker of the House, because she asked one of the Youth MPs to stop reading from notes and actually just speak without notes. And that was just part of the protocol, wasn't it? But it was Anne Tolley getting in trouble, not sort of saying, well, this is part of the process of Parliament.
I felt Anne actually got the wrong end of the stick there. So yes, as parliamentarians, real parliamentarians, we're meant to read. We're not meant to read from notes. You're meant to speak extempore, just off the cuff. And I actually think that's a good rule. But when it comes to these young people, I think Anne got it wrong. It doesn't matter if they're reading or not. And I think she got too aggressive, and
Right.
she forgot she's not dealing with MPs. She's dealing with young people. But that was the same youth parliament where I think again lefty appointees stormed out and protest and all sorts of, again, it's just an arrogance, a total arrogance. And it's unfortunate because it ruins the experience for most.
Yeah. Okay, speaking of education, there's some pretty disturbing stats that came out. They've written it in the positive. Daily school attendance rate at 71%. What you could say is 29%, almost a third of our kids are truanting. And I was just interested to look at the latest data. So this is from the Salvation Army report. And you can see so this is, quite a long period of time. And we were sort of on the left-hand side there in the 2010s, we were averaging, the line to look at is for all students, the red line. So we're averaging kind of around 70%. It goes down lower. And then over COVID, there was this massive drop, but we still haven't recovered that percentage of students attending. And unfortunately, the green line is Pacifica and the orange line at the very bottom is Māori, which is even lower than the 73% that Radio New Zealand were referring to. I just think, golly, there's a major problem with truancy when you consider that it is so low.
Oh, I think it's appalling. We might sit and critique what is being taught at school at times, but then on top of that, kids are not even attending. Look, my own take on it, we've got a cultural problem here. It's parents in particular who are not seeing the value of education, nor are taking enough interest to make sure their kids get to school. And I think, unfortunately, the days of doing the sort of the soft approach are over. I think actually the government at the moment is looking at some options to really toughen things up. I mean, I've been involved personally, Rachel and I, with programs that do try to address truancy, where the school, social workers and police turn up. The police are not usually in uniform, but they turn up with big parcels of food and they work with the family and try to draw them back in, and that's really good. And to the extent we can roll that around the country, that's brilliant. But I think there's probably coming a point in time where some parents need to be made an example of, and I don't know what the legal framework is, but basically they need to have whopping fines. If you're not sending your kids to school, boom, $1,000 a week. And I think that would be a shake and a wake-up call to many parents to get their A into G.
Okay, you're sounding like the ACT Party because that's the policy that they just introduced.
Yeah, well, I think it's a good one. It's always that mixture of carrot and stick. But I'm slightly influenced by some principles I've talked to as well. Coming up to the last election, it's just like the parents just don't care. So again, several of them have to be made examples of, and hopefully the rest take notice.
Here's a
But your
question for you.
thoughts?
Here's a question for you, Simon. Is it because the parents don't care, or is it because their kids won't do what they tell them to? Because kids have got the message that parents can't tell you what to do.
Oh, I suspect there's an element to it. I mean, there's going to be a whole array, isn't there? And you'll know this stuff better than me, but I think there is an aspect of that. Kids just get away. There's no real consequences. Parents can just sort of waggle the finger, and that's about it. Yeah. So yes, actually, I don't have to prolong it. I think yes, but clearly you've got some thoughts in this space too. You're putting the harder one on me.
Well, actually, let me just grab a few. Catherine says, I homeschool because I know my child is being educated, not indoctrinated and dumbed down. Liam says, so the COVID response destroyed school for the mainly lower socio-economic class. I think there is some truth to what Liam says in terms of COVID created this environment where kids were home for so long that they just don't want to go back to school, or they've struggled to get back into the routine. There was definitely a radical break, wasn't there, in kind of the being used to going to school, getting up every morning and going to school. And I think we're still picking up the pieces from that. Catherine says, why would children bother to turn up? The rubbish they have to enjoy. Oh, that's the same one that homeschools, of course. And Nancy Margaret says, hardly surprising given our schooling. Heard an MP this morning saying that 16-year-olds should be allowed to vote. Heaven help us. Well, they can't even get to school. But anyway, there might be a few other dumb voters as well. Have you seen the percentage that vote for the Greens and some other parties? So anyway, we've all got to learn from that one. All right, let's continue. And speaking of the Greens, actually, our favourite Green MP, Tamitha Paul, she wants to strip heritage buildings. Now, what was the list? So she wants to strip prominent colonial statues around Wellington of their heritage status. She's got in her sight William Wakefield Monument at the Basin Reserve, Edward Wakefield on Mount Victoria, and Queen Victoria statue in between Cambridge and Kent Terrace. She calls them thieving criminal colonisers. Now, before I get your comment, Tamitha Paul has got a bit of a reputation. She was the one who made these claims about people being in prison and also claimed that about people on the street were more scared of the police, and so we shouldn't have beat police. She also isn't too keen on jails and claimed that a person was in jail simply for a $12 theft, which wasn't true. The only thing she said was this. Yeah, oh, whoops, I just played that again. Just watch, it's politicians are criminals. Governments cause poverty. Yes, politicians are criminals. So she's got that one right. That's the only one she's got right. Anyway, I'm just jesting there, Simon. What do you think?
Well, look, she's an example of what drives some of those youth MPs' absurdity. She's just a radical, and she's not particularly bright because she was yelling at the Minister of Police recently all about shoplifting. Bob was saying that actually people are shoplifting because they're in complete poverty, which people picked up pretty quickly was probably not the smartest example for a Green Party MP to be talking about, seeing that Green Party MPs are quite in favour of shoplifting themselves, particularly expensive designer dresses.
I see what you did there. Yeah.
Yeah. So not the smartest tool in the shed. But look, let's just address the colonial at two levels, or maybe three. First and foremost, they are part of our history. They're just as much part of our history as Māori Po that we see. Secondly, there are some other symbols around the country that have people celebrate. I'm not talking colonial, that have horrendous backgrounds, rapists, murderers, and again, within her cultural tradition. I mean, is she going to argue that they should be taken down? I mean, of course she won't. But the third point, and I think it's a bit more sinister, and it's why I reacted when I saw the headline. Really, she wants to get rid of everything that she doesn't deem to be part of her cultural perspective. And to be really, a bit heavy about it, She wants to remove colonial statues today, but it will be colonial institutions after that, which is why the Greens don't like democracy. And then it will be New Zealanders they no longer deem part of New Zealand. And some might think that's pushing it a bit too far, but that's the trajectory I think these guys are on. And it's very dangerous. And ultimately, and the word gets thrown around far too often, Bob, but in this case I think it's true, it's deeply racist. She looks at things and says, you're not of my culture, I don't like you, I want to remove you. Statues today, people tomorrow.
Yeah. Okay. Matt says, I would like to hear from students themselves why they are not attending school. It could be very interesting. Actually, it would be very good. Peter Lloyd's spot on. Thank you, Sue Bradford. Say no more. Troy Allen says, oh, here we are. Someone's called you a communist. Simon O'Connor on schooling. Brother, you sound like a communist. The parents can educate the children far better than the government. Well, I don't think you would disagree with that, would you, Simon?
No, I mean, gosh, I think homeschooling is the preferred way to do things. I think Rachel and I would homeschool the kids now rather than not.
Yeah.
Of course, they're older, but no, we're not making comparators. But most people can't homeschool, and so they rely on the state system.
Yep. Robert says, no doubt the poor, long-suffering taxpayer has to pay for the removal project. This is of Tamitha Paul's great idea of colonisation. Woke6 says, the Crown brought about civilisation and laws and opened its arms, open for Māori people to join them. What a gift Māori was given. And Susie has connected the last two topics and says, wonder how many days off school Tamitha Paul has had. That's very good, Susie. You are sharp tonight. Right. What are we up to? Okay, now speaking of statues, there's another statue being built. Actually, I'm fascinated to know what Tamitha Paul would think of this statue. So this was the media coverage of this one.
Cement and iron now, but once complete, a 16-metre tall statue will tower over this Waiwera Valley hilltop, much to the dismay of neighbouring residents.
The size is it's monstrous for a valley like this.
The structure is a representation of Buddhist master Guru Rinpoche and belongs to Jeter's Grove Charitable Trust. One News requested an interview with the group, but did not hear back. Residents only learned of the building plans in recent months, and after raising concerns with council, were told the piece had been accepted as artwork under the Auckland Unitary Plan. In a statement, the council said artwork is permitted in rural zones without a consent, as long as it complies with other controls, which this statue does. However, if the structure is used as a site of worship, resource consent will be required. The council adding it's currently investigating reports of gatherings taking place on the site after footage of what appears to be a Buddhist ceremony was captured by a resident.
So where's Tamitha Paul when you need her? But look, Simon, you might understand the local council thing a little bit more. I'm not sure if that's your specialty, but I mean, do they have every right to build this?
I don't know enough about the bylaws, and they vary from council to council, and obviously rural and urban. I suspect the artwork side is true. I can think of a few sculptorum, both outside of Wellington and Auckland. What's the name of the farm? I forgot. The Gibbs. The Gibbs farm, for example, has massive pieces of artwork at their sculptorum, and that's amazing. If this is literally just a piece of art, I could see how it works. But at the same time, and I don't pretend to be an expert in Buddhism, but when symbols like that are put up, they are places of religious worship. And, I'm a pluralist. I've got my own Christian faith, but I respect there are other traditions. I think it's a bit on the nose, ultimately, to have this giant statue just appear. And it isn't, I think, a random piece of art. And I think the only other thing I'd say is, of course, if you go outside at Waikanai, or is it Paraparam, there's actually a giant statue of Mary up on one of the hills that the locals put up years ago. So I'm probably muddying the waters for some people. I'm deeply uncomfortable with it, and not primarily because it's religious or it's a Buddhist statue. It just seems completely disproportionate in that area.
But I would, I mean, there's other examples as well. For example, just down the road from where we live in Manukau City, there is a brand new Mormon church which completely towers over the motorway. It is white. It looks grand. It looks spectacular. But I guess the interesting thing around the Waireta one is just it sounds like there was no consultation and there was no engagement with the neighbours. So it seems like there's kind of two issues happening here. There's the religious aspect and that it's a big statue of worship. And then there's the, were the neighbours consulted? Was due process followed? Is it actually a closet church? Because it looks like they're already using it as a worship place, which brings in new rules. So, I'm muddying the water as well. There just doesn't seem to be a fine line. I know some people think that we shouldn't be allowing any other religions, but when you're in a multicultural, multi-religion country, this is part of the parcel, isn't it?
Oh, it is. I mean, and that's why I said, I'm a pluralist. I mean, I'm Christian, but I respect that there are other traditions. And so that's fine. They're allowed to build their temples and so forth. And that's perfectly fine. Just as, I'd like to think, not in all countries, Christian churches are allowed to be built in something that's predominantly Buddhist country, for example. But yeah, it's not an easy or black and white issue. And I suspect it's not the case, if the council hasn't followed its processes correctly, then it should be pretty simple for the locals to do a judicial review. And those are very, very helpful for saying, hey, you were meant to consult us and you didn't. But I think someone's drunk the Kool-Aid, is my speculative guess here, Bob, and said, oh, no, yep, it's just a huge piece of art. Let's go for it, without thinking through to go, well, hold on a moment. Religious groups don't tend to just put up a huge piece of art. It's usually an object of either reverence or where, as you say, services are going to be held. And look, I think the final point is, if you're in Waireta, if I heard that's where it was, and you're in this gentle rolling hills, it's always just been quite bucolic. Next minute, boom, there's a 16-metre high statue. It's like, what the?
You feel like you're Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and you got to bow down to the gold statue. So anyway, they will have some fun there. I mean, that's going to be an interesting debate. And I just want to know where Tamitha Paul is on that one. Does she accept that one? But she just wants to get rid of the colonialist ones. All right, we're doing fantastic. I was fascinated just to see this one. There was a report in the New Zealand Herald, but it was also on Stuff. Tragic case of a pregnant teen being hit by a boy racer and actually got sentenced partly because of causing the death of the unborn child. And if you read the media report in both of the press and if you read the judge's comments, actually there was this tacit admission that it was a life that had been killed. And yet I thought they were told us it was a clump of cells. This is just to me, it's a classic example of where their argument isn't consistent and they trip over themselves.
Oh, they do. And look, it's great that these stories come out. Not the situation. I want to be clear about that. I think the situation's absolutely tragic. And I think it was this one where the girl has actually forgiven to a degree the boy. I think she was saying, look, I shouldn't have been there. And the judge, I think, too, said, look, that's actually not the right thing per se, not the forgiveness side, but hey, he's responsible. Don't gaslight yourself. But these stories do show the inconsistency. I mean, sadly, the pro-death side really just brings human life down to whether it is wanted or not, which is such a dangerous philosophical, cultural, and political place to be in. Because in this case, they say, no, the child was wanted, therefore it has value. If the child wasn't of value, then it doesn't matter. And again, very insidious concept. But these stories, tragic as they are, remind us of the humanity of the child. That girl, the father and the wider family will mourn the loss of a child that was only a few weeks away. Was it 8 months pregnant or something?
Yeah.
She was 8 months pregnant, so I should get my phrasing better.
Yeah. So always good. It's always interesting when you see an article where they actually admit that the unborn child is actually a baby. This was an unborn child. Remember, this is a pregnant teen, but it caused the baby's death. So It's always nice when the media are pro-life. Just a comment from Judith, just in relation to your parapara, what is it? Parapara umu, paraparam, as I used to say, that that one is built up in an urban area, which is different to the one which is rural and farmland and on a hill in full view. Is it? I guess you can see both. Neighbours, no matter how built up the area is, neighbours are gonna be upset when there's a big item of worship. But then again, I heard somebody say, did the statue of Mary in Brazil and Rio de Janeiro get a planning consent?
Oh yeah, Jesus the Redeemer, not Mary in this case.
Oh,
yeah,
sorry, you're right. Sorry.
Before we end up with a major Catholic
get my geography right there. Okay, I haven't been there. I do want to go and see it, but anyway, carry on.
I think Judith's raising actually a good point. I mean, partly we don't know what the planning rules are in Paraumu compared to what they are in Waiwera. What is an object of worship? What is just a statue? Who authorised, or what consents were granted or not? There's so many variables. But I hope there's a way through here that eventually allows people just to be settled and comfortable with what's happening.
All right. The good news is that we've got through our topic. So, and I've got a little bit of time just to cover a couple of quick ones that I wanted to run by you. This is the first one. Stuff have had a look at the social media of ACT New Zealand First and National and are very upset that they're using caps on some of their titles, and they're using the words like destroy, demolish and roast. And they reckon that they're just angry. I think actually they're upset that, as I did the McBlog on David Seymour having a camera when he did his interview with John Campbell from One News, the mainstream media are a little upset that there's alternative media popping up, like Political Playback and Daybreak and Solid Ground and Straight Talk, and they're a little bit upset that we're using caps. And somebody, a mate, emailed me just to say, well, gee, have they looked at this book? Because it's got power. I mean, power. That's a dangerous word. And look, that's all in caps. So what's the media actually upset here? Are they just jealous that political parties are going around the mainstream media and getting huge media watches on social media?
I think that's a part of it. I'll be honest, it's not for me about the caps or using the caps lock. I have to say I don't like the undertone of saying destroy, demolish, roast. It is quite aggressive. It is echoing a lot of what we see coming out of the United States. Such and such demolishes Joe Biden's argument. And it's figurative, but there is a overall aggressive tone, which in general I don't like. But it's a free country. The caps lock, it's just what's in vogue at the moment. And it's getting cut through. And that's the reason why the mainstream media don't like it, is actually the social media game by the likes of National and ACT. And New Zealand First is doing quite well. And you've seen before, if someone on the conservative side or the traditional side or the centre-right is doing well, mainstream media tend to attack. They tend to try and say that there's some sort of nefarious problem going here. Think at the moment the left wing, the Green Party's accusation that every group they don't like is somehow funded by the Atlas Network. They are always trying to find a blame and to attack and to find nefarious undertones for when they're not succeeding in the same way the centre-right is. Yeah.
I mean, I just, the thing that I found interesting was that in the article they blamed Ben Shapiro from Daily Wire as a right-wing conservative Jewish commentator, said that because he was using it in some of his titles, which seemed like a strange one to blame because I have seen it before. I mean, I've written titles, Simon, for media releases and for, social media as well. And, well, the reason you'd use destroy and demolish together is the alliteration. There's nothing better than a title with alliteration. In fact, I noticed that you posted an article on our website today about some Supreme Court decisions, and you used some very nice alliteration as well. Would you like to confess?
I did, and now I'm trying. I mean, it was the S's, wasn't it? Was it a slew of successful Supreme Court?
Yes.
Something or other?
Beautiful. Look at that. A slew. I mean, I mean, have you been listening to Ben Shapiro? Because slew. I mean, why are you so angry? Anyway, I'm being facetious. But the other thing is that often it's the words that grab that grab people's attentions, slightly over emotive, and something is slammed, or in fact, I was calling out the media recently. What was it? Oh, that's right. It was because Trump had sworn about Israel and Iran breaking the peace deal, and what did they say? They said he had. Oh, it was a derogatory term. I can't remember now, but it was a little bit like destroy, demolish, and roast. And look, it's designed to titles. Unfortunately, we live in a clickbait environment, don't we? And people are just using this.
Oh, look, absolutely. As I say, these aren't words we're suggesting should be banned or anything. They're successful words. They do grab attention. We do social media a lot, and we see, and if I personalize it, I see lots of trends. There's certain styles and themes which come on through, and you see all of a sudden that's garnering attention, so people start doing it. And then a few weeks later, it moves on to the next thing. And at the moment, bolded, destroy, demolish, roast, takes down is attracting people's attention. Personally, as I said as well, I think over time, the hyper-emotive use of words begins to lessen their value. And you eventually then have to find a new set, or you end up finding a way to become even more emotional.
Yeah.
But yeah, ultimately, this is successful. It's normal English words, alliterative, as you say, that quickly tell the viewer or listener the perspective, and it's working. And that's why mainstream media are upset. Because I think in this article or somewhere else, they were saying, oh, well, how many social media people are working for Labour versus National?
No.
Well, who cares?
It's what you
It doesn't matter.
prioritise.
Yeah, they've made their choices. But again, the suggestion, as you all well know, Bob, the suggestion is, oh, National's got more than Labour, therefore something's unfair. It's like, no, one's the opposition, one's government, and one's made a priority, one hasn't. It's as simple as that.
Kevin says, did you notice, Bob, on the book cover, it says little J Cinder? No, it doesn't. That's a capital J. Kevin? I think you were looking for a conspiracy there, Kevin, and unfortunately it's not there. Anyway, it's all caps, which worries me. I mean,
I think
that's shouting.
I think that's Kevin's point. Her name's all in caps. Sort of.
Yeah. Oh, I see what you mean. It's just that he's got a little J at the start of Jacinda. I see. Okay. Sorry, Kevin. No, you're absolutely right. Here we go. I did just want to show you this one. Cancel. That's terrible. See when I'm on the road. Here we are. Peter says you wouldn't need caps to demolish Joe Biden's argument. Anyway, that was just a bit of a funny one. Look, there was something else I wanted to cover. Quick update on that cafe in Wanganui. Now, there was a big furor around this cafe in Wanganui that was told that they had to take down the sign, John 3:16. The mayor of Wanganui, who came to a conference that I spoke at 2 weeks ago, got involved as a result of seeing a whole lot of posts and concerns around it. Simon, my understanding is that it's not so much the wording of the sign that is the problem, but it was actually the fact that there was some structural change made to a, what's the building called? Heritage building. And that was more the issue.
Yeah, that's my understanding as well. So obviously as this started to get traction, it's like, gosh, here we go. A bit like that cancellation discussion we had at the start. Someone starts complaining and says they're offended, and sort of played right into that, didn't it? We went, oh no, this seems ridiculous. But actually, and I had actually others come to me hours later saying, hey, it's a heritage building, and the physical glass has been replaced without the proper consents. I mean, how many consents do you need to change glass? But anyway, you can build a 16 meter high Buddhist statue, but you can't replace a window pane. So heritage building didn't have the right consent. I don't think, from what we now know, that it's got anything to do with the wording itself. Well, let's hope not.
No, I've gone back to them and asked for clarification, and it seems like it has sorted itself out. And good on the mayor for getting involved in Wanganui. So that was very good. The other one I was just going to run by you is that the Advertising Standards Authority has cancelled, told the Warehouse to pull this ad because, well, let me just play you the ad actually. Hang on, here it is.
What does your bag say about you? Uses natural deodorant. Skips leg day. Listens to vinyl exclusively. Has a small dog. Knew it. Car is full of sand. Can't do long division. A mostly indoors, outdoors guy. Oh my God, makes friends in the bathroom. Legend. The Warehouse red bag raises over 1 million.
Yeah, okay. So the ASA said it had to be withdrawn because by saying can't do long division, you're condemning little girls because there's this assumption that little girls can't do long division, and that's just insulting. I find it more insulting that they think that only girls can have a purple backpack. But, boy, the Advertising Standards Authority, there's a whole lot of ads that I'd rather they ban, and then they pull this one because a 5-year-old can't do long division, which most 5-year-olds can't.
Yeah, look, a complete overreaction by the ASA. But look, I find them incredibly unreliable when it comes to advertising in this country, what they do and don't support. So, look, it just shows they're compromised, as we already know, on the element of gender ideology. They've drunk that Kool-Aid, Bob, and so because it could be perceived as a girl's bag, of course, I think the little giggle is in a feminine tone that it's only suggesting girls. And so off the deep end, they've gone. I suppose to be slightly conspiratorial, I have no doubt if it was a boy, they wouldn't care. They would probably affirm it. So again, it's just replete with the usual gender stupidities. And again, on top of that, if this is what the Advertising Standards Authority, the ASA, is concerned about, they're lost. There are so many more things they should be bothered with than actually interfering on an ad. I mean, really crazy.
What was that word you used? Conspiratorial?
Conspiratorial, to be sort of into
Conspiratorial.
conspiracies. I don't know, maybe I pronunciate things wrong.
Oh, I thought you just made up a word. Okay. Just a quick advertising thing before we go, which we need to go in a sec, but our new kind of campaigning that we're doing, which is that for Family First supporters, our content, your convenience. You can watch it as you are now, but also you can read it on our website. We're putting a lot of scripts and summaries, extended summaries. If you'd prefer just to read the summary, just maybe you're too busy to watch the full thing, and so you read the summary and read the transcript of the interviews that Simon's doing on Family Matters and the McBlog. But also all our videos are available as audios. So if you want to listen while you're driving or walking, as I often listen to podcasts, we're all on Spotify as well. So it's watch, read and listen. And Simon, I know you've been writing a couple of articles just for the reading aspect for people who would prefer to read about some of these things. Do you want to just give a quick advert on the ones you've recently put up?
Well, the most recent one is what you just referenced earlier about these slew of successful Supreme Court cases. So in the United States Supreme Court, I should underline that, there's been a whole number of things from access to pornography to withdrawing your kids from explicit RSE courses, defunding Planned Parenthood. So long and short, I just wrote about that and giving people who come to the Family First website, familyfirst.org.nz, they can read and get a very quick summary of each of those judgments. And of course, follow the links. If they're really keen, they can follow the links. I've found the actual judgments themselves. You can spend hours reading what the justices of the US Supreme Court think.
Okay, brilliant. And actually someone, hang on, it wasn't that one. Let me just, you can tell I'm on the road, can't you?
We were doing so well. Here we are, people, the 54th minute. It
Here
cracks.
we are. Yeah, Peter just says if it was a transgender child, they would be seething, which is exactly right, because they've assumed that it was a girl with the purple backpack, which was exactly my point about the Advertising Standards Authority. I think they should be in trouble. Anyway, those graphics are fantastic. Familyfirst.nz, you can watch, read and listen. And also just a quick reminder about the Forum on the Family. Got an amazing lineup of speakers and it is filling fast. So forumonthefamily.nz, you don't want to delay on that. All right, Simon, we have done fantastic. We got through 13 topics and I I almost managed to do everything technically correct. So tomorrow morning, daybreak at 7:30, and then both of us are back on Monday night for Straight Talk, and we'll check out some of the topics. Question as always, Simon, what's on the menu tonight?
We're actually going out. It's a special
Lucky
occasion
Rachel.
for our foster daughter, so we're going out.
Great, okay. Bit of a wild night. Make sure you haven't booked outdoor seating, eh?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Could you move the umbrellas and bring me more blankets?
Okay, very good. Thank you for watching, everybody. Sorry we didn't get to all the comments, but we will be back next Thursday night at 5 o'clock for Political Playback. Until then, have a safe, dry night. Good night.